Okay, so you have considered all sorts of cool cars in your life, but one car you've never considered, as we're back here at Function Automotive to check out probably one of the coolest cars on the market, a gray market vehicle, but not just any gray market vehicle, folks. Today we're going to feature a Mitsubishi FTO. 1, 2, 3. Hey everybody, and welcome back to What It's Like to Drive. I'm your host, VIPPrimo. I know this is going to probably be the last one of this year. This has been a wreck of a year, but you know what? We are landing the last one on a really high note here. We wanted to go over gray market vehicles for a while, and this car is the epitome of gray market vehicle. This behind me is a Mitsubishi FTO. It's a 1995. Now, if you're doing your math, 25 years is the extension for when you can start importing gray market vehicles, and the FTO was never offered in the United States. So here's an opportunity to take a car that was never offered here, take it for a spin, see what it's like to drive, and really go over the fine-tuned details for this. This is kind of an area, I think there's only like 5 of these in the United States total, and there's probably with this one, I think one got messed up, so we're down to probably about 4. So max, we probably only have 4 of these in the United States. It can't get any rarer than that. So I was kind of a little nervous driving it. So the beauty of it is that it's only making about 170 horsepower. So I don't think I'm going to be destroying myself too badly. I think I can control that kind of power. You guys tell me if you think I break stuff. I'm sure there's some guys out there that'll be like, yeah, at 170 he can mess up a car. Yes, I understand that. But for the most part, we're really going to try to see what this is like. There's a lot of things that are done to this. Like it has coils, it has some other things that get really kind of unfriendly on the road. So to see how that comes together is going to be very interesting. But this is one of my favorite cars. So this is going to be it's going to be a revelation for me to be able to drive this. This is kind of my test drive moment to see how this drives and see what it feels like. So today we're going to find out what the Mitsubishi FTO drives like, what it's like to drive, how much it costs to have a vehicle like this of your own, and third, what are the upkeep costs, what are the kind of pitfalls that you're going to run into with this vehicle. We're all going to do it, and we're going to cover it right now. Okay, I'm in the driver's seat of an FTO. Oh, I got the keys. I need the keys. All right, so, okay, I got the key in. Can I move the seat? Oh, wow, okay. I'm in. Okay, first thing I'm gonna feel about this. It's talking to me in Japanese. Dude, this is awesome, okay. The first thing about this is that number one, it's an automatic, so it's going to be really easy to drive. We're going to be able to focus completely on the driving factor here. I'm really excited about that. But the thing is I didn't expect the feel. It feels closed in, feels very sporty, which I didn't expect from it. But also it feels very comfortable. It really feels like a driver car, and it makes sense why this was. This car had been made in America. It had to have taken off. Shifted, I got to press down on it. It's got a nice little Momo knob from Italy here. I got a backup camera, which is sweet. All right, so we're gonna go real slow here. I'm not gonna break this nice car because it was imported and he put a lot. So the other thing is this is really, really lowered. We had a video a while back on the lowering process and how that is and how that feels, and this is going to definitely be a little bit of a rope vest here, but we are going to kind of take it slow because I want to get used to it. But we have some good flat spots here so we can get a little power on it. I'm just going to say it, the power for this is not anything to write home about. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but if you are just like me, I own my Genesis, it only makes 220 horsepower. This is all I would need. This is not like, I would definitely not complain about this too much. I'm not going to any drag races anytime soon. So this really does fit the bill for it. I'm happy with the power it has and how it feels, and just amazing that it would be this nice for this car. And guys, this is a dream car of mine. I've wanted to drive an FTO forever. I wanted to import an FTO. I'm kind of upset that Dave got to it before me. It is 25 years now, and I am ready to get my first car. And that's the other thing is I guess this is effectively my test drive to see what if it's a car I want to own. And that's the thing is it's already winning me over. Is that a speed bump?
Yeah.
This is not bad though, right? So the car was imported 6 months ago. So it's got BC coils on it. So 50 millimeter Project F wide body. And for some reason today, the road is sandy. And I am like losing sleep over the amount of sand that we're like hitting here. And I'm just, look at that. Look at me. Look, I know what I'm doing. It looks like I've driven cars before, huh? Like you can tell my car's lowered 2 inches, right? But yeah. You guys out there, if you've never considered a Mitsubishi FTO, right? I really am gonna say right up front, this is a car that you need to consider. It is even lowered like this. A lot of times I'll get lowered cars and it's like, it's a pain. It's so much anguish that you go through. Everything about this car feels really good, even lowered. I would probably tighten up the suspension a little bit more. But like you said, it's been 6 months and he's done this. So it's not just that the car feels good. It's the idea that if you're looking for something really unique that is going to stand out, that people are going to get excited about. We drove up in this car and we're in a kind of a back road area, so we're not doing too much with it from the standpoint of having a lot of audience. But we already had somebody that drove by and was like, wow, check that car out. The two things about it is the people who know cars know this car, and the people who don't know this car don't know this car. You get those magical moments of like, is this a big car? What is it? Where did it come from? What is it doing? And then with the wide body kit on it, it feels very stock. It feels, this is the way it would feel when you drive it over there. So yeah, that's the thing I'm gonna be excited about, is to kind of go over the cost aspects of this, and having it be something that you guys can pick up and drive yourself, because it's definitely selling me right off the bat. And here comes a truck behind me. He's not driving faster than me. I got a nice sporty Mitsubishi FTO. That gauge is easy to read, got temp, fuel, speed. A lot of that stuff has to be upgraded, I think, for the US spec, because I'm about ready to pull back into Function Automotive so that we can discuss the car. But that's one of the big problems is getting parts for this car. We did a little bit of research before we drove the car to kind of see what was up, and had a lot of difficulty finding stuff that would fit for this car. So there's a lot of positives and negatives, but if you're looking for like a project that you go, hey, I want it to be unique, I want it to be a project, and you want something that's challenging, this thing is screaming at you. And that's the beauty. I have Function Automotive on speed dial, so they probably hate me. But that thing is, I have somebody that can work on it too. So we're gonna pull it into the spot over here, and we're gonna feature this. Okay guys, so what was it like to drive? Everything I'd imagined and even more. I couldn't believe that this is a car that was not made for American streets. We actually took it on a road that had a couple of, but you know me, I'm gonna take it on the worst road possible to kind of find out where the kinks were. But today was a little gentle on it because I knew it was a very rare car, so I didn't want to take one of the few rare ones and break them. So we took them on a nice little road out here next to Function Automotive and took it on a nice little ride to see how it felt. And I was really impressed with how it felt. Now, there's some little adjustment issues that I'd probably do a little bit different on the coils, but for the most part, I mean, it's not been around for a long time, so there's a lot of different details that are going to be done to this car later. So we hope to come back to this next year and really show you all the things that have been done to it. But as a whole, this is probably one of the top 10 cars I've ever driven, and easily like in the upper echelon. Even with the limited power that it had, it felt really nice. Now remember, a lot of times when we talk about stuff, I'm not talking about cars that we're going to take on tracks. If you want to, you could throw in something like a 4G63, like the old Eclipse engines, do a lot of other things. He's going to be adding a turbo to it. So I'm 100% sure that down the road, this power is going to go up, and I'm sure that's going to change a little bit with the drive dynamics. But as a whole, just sitting the way it was, I would happily own this car. It would also be something I would easily daily drive anytime I wanted, even if you put the turbo in it and made anywhere up to 300 horsepower. Easily would be a car I'd be happy to have in my driveway, would be happy to drive it. It's so smooth, it's so easy to drive. This is something that I was saying during the drive that I'm going to repeat again. I'm amazed that this car never made it over here, because it's just an amazing car. If it had sold over here, I'm sure it would probably something that might even be still selling today. But again, very nice car, wide body kit, perfect rims, excellent paint. This car is a winner. Okay, so what is it like to own your own Mitsubishi FTO? Well, it's going to be kind of hard to find one. There's different areas. I really can't suggest any specific website to go find something, because the car's just not offered in the United States. So the first thing you're going to have to do is find somebody who's an importer who will import the vehicle. The beauty of these is they're older cars. They weren't as well, I guess, they weren't as well loved, not as cycled out. They were a very heavily gray market exchanged vehicle. So the beauty of it is there should be a lot of vehicles out there to choose from, but you really want to be very selective about what car you get. So this one right here was around $3,000. The import things that have to be done to the vehicle, tariffs, taxes, everything down to making it legal in the United States, was about $7,000. Now then we get into the fun stuff. So let's say wide body, rims, coils, a lot of other things go into this car to make it look as nice as it is, and those total $12,000. That may not be your experience with this, so you may be able to find stuff that's easier to get, or different ways of doing it your way that may not be as much as this. But the thing is I don't want you to cut yourself short and say, hey, I'm only gonna spend enough to make it legalized. The idea that you have to consider here is there's a lot of parts of this car have never made it into the US. There's a lot of unique things about this car, and those things, like a lot of things that he had to import through the UK to get them here to even do any work on the car. So you got to think about parts. You got to think about a lot of other things. Think of this purchase as the long game. So don't just think about buying this car. You got to think about where you're going to be at the end of this. A lot of guys don't like to plan, and when you do stuff like that, you put yourself in a position where you buy a car and then you're sitting on it for months and months on end. And we don't want you to do that. We want you to know exactly what it takes to get into this vehicle. 6 months, this car is already driving down the road and feeling like a dream. And we want to make sure that if you do the same thing, you end up the same way. Okay, so what is maintenance like on a Mitsubishi FTO? Now, whether you do this car or you do any kind of gray market car, yes, oil changes and things of that nature are just part of life. So that is effectively going to be easy. I can get oil, but you're going to have to think about where to get an oil filter. Very unique little things that you probably don't think about in your own vehicle, because there's so much access to it, may not be easily accessible here. Lug nuts, brakes, oil changes, all that stuff. Like, you can get oil, you can probably get pads. They are Mitsubishi, so I'm sure you'll be able to have a little bit easier time with that. But all of that thing that I just said there comes with the asterisks that you may not be able to. That may be a lot of struggle to be able to find the stuff that you need to do some of the regular maintenance items. So you're going to have to think about that. But as a whole, how much are you going to drive it? So if it's going to be a 3-month to 7-month oil change, today with synthetics, most people only do their oil change once a year. It'll be something about how you kind of plan that out. But maintenance should always be part of that planning equation, and at the end of the day, you shouldn't have too many problems or anything that's hidden ghosts or anything of that nature. I've never heard of anything with the FTO, but again, if I haven't heard it, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. This has a 4 and a 6 cylinder. This is actually the 6 cylinder. So you want to look into all the different things and problems and things that happen for each engine, and just be aware of them, be ahead of them, so that if you expect them, it's you call your friend and say, hey, I got a connection, or I got something. A lot of this is going to be word of mouth, forums, different areas, people talking. And remember, if there's only 4 cars out there, there's not going to be a lot of people you can go out and go, hey, I need an oil filter. So have your planning ahead of time. That's the big thing I think if we can take anyway from this, is have the planning part of it done with the car. I think the driving part of it, that's the weird thing. Most of the times I will test drive a car, and I'll say, okay, a lot of this has to do with how it drives or how it feels and, all this other stuff. But when it comes to these, the back end planning is all the stuff that you don't see that is so important. And I mean, it's something that we want to be a part of, leading edge coming down the pipe, so that we can be able to offer stuff like this and have you access to it, so you know people that are going to do it. But that's the thing is it's definitely keeping your head open, keeping your head up, having your ears to the grindstone and making sure you know that when you get this, this is what it is, that you're not getting blindsided. Okay, so what's our final words in a Mitsubishi FTO? Huge score. And the thing is, for a gray market vehicle, I kind of expected it, to be honest. I know the build qualities of these cars. I've done a lot of research on them in the past. The only thing I was waiting for was kind of that 25-year mark so I could jump into something and have it available. And I got to thank Dave for really bringing this out, man. It just... the work that he's put into it has been incredible. So if you guys want to follow him on Instagram, American_FTO, it's going to be right below here, so you guys can follow that and take a look at it and follow his build process, because he's done amazing work in such a short amount of time and has done, it was just so much of a joy. We can't thank him enough for letting us drive this car. I mean, even 5 feet. I don't know if I'd be able to let somebody drive my FTO if I had one, but you know what? I got to say, I appreciate him for letting us join. So I hope you guys get an opportunity at some point to drive one of the couple of FTOs that are in the United States, and I hope you will down the road consider gray market vehicles. It's not like it used to be. There's a lot of exporters out there now that provide this service for you, so it shouldn't be hard to be able to consider a gray market vehicle of your own. Even if you don't consider an FTO, if you consider a Supra or a Skyline, these things are becoming more and more readily available. We know exactly what we need to do to get them legalized, and it's just something of having a piece of history that nobody else has. Even if it's a common car, being able to drive on the right side, all this stuff is just a joy. It's a unique experience. It brings something new to the table every time. So I could go in and talk for an hour, but you know what, guys? Go out, look for it yourself, and tell us what you think in the comments below. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a great video. It's been a joy to have. We cannot wait to continue our search for the next vehicle, the next cool ride, and show you guys what it's like to drive. See you soon.